Hello, I'm Mbweha. You can call me Ben of Team Relentless, and this is the Winter 2022-2023 Buying Guide. This advice will be valid for about a year, so if it's 2024, you're going to want to find the latest video. Before we go any further, I want to let you know that there is an article version of this buying guide available on the Team Relentless website. The link to it can be found in the description or somewhere on your screen right now. In this video, we're going to make sure you understand what is in a core set versus a battle force, what you get when you buy any of the neutral expansions, introduce you to not one but two extremely useful tools for expanding your collections, and go buy some faction by faction advice for what to pick up first. And best of all, we're going to do all that faster than it takes a Jawa to trick a Mandalorian into finding him breakfast. At the time of filming this, there are two core sets to choose from. The original, which features the Rebel and Imperial armies from the Galactic Civil War, and the Clone Wars core set, which features clones and droids. Every core set has a commander, support unit, and two core units for each of the factions inside, as well as all the tokens, dice, tools, and barricades you'll need to play the game. That's a huge bang for your buck, and depending on what kind of army you want to play, you may end up buying 2 or even 3 core sets. If you know someone else who wants to collect the opposite faction as you, then splitting these can be an incredibly cost-saving choice. Now, just to make sure there's no confusion about this, even if you buy 2 core sets, you will not have enough units to play a full standard game yet. You would have enough to play a 500-point skirmish game, but if you wanted to play the 800-point standard game, you're going to need to continue to build your collection. There are currently 5 different battle forces available for purchase. They are Echo-based Defenders for Rebels, Blizzard Force for Empire, the 501st for Clones, Separatist Invasion Force for the Droids, and Shadow Collective for Mercenaries. What you get in each of these depends on which one you choose, but in general you can think of these as an almost army in a box. If you're just getting started on your collection, then buying one of these battle forces as well as a neutral expansion called an Essentials Kit for the tools inside of it is an alternative way to start your collection as opposed to the core set. Now, I want to also mention that the units that you find inside the Battle Force boxes can be used in the faction at large, but they also can be taken in a special Battle Force army that is basically a sub-faction with special army building rules. Before we do the faction by faction breakdown, let's talk about the neutral expansions to consider. First of all, there are 2 different upgrade card pack expansions that are a pretty good idea to pick up. However, you may not need them depending on what type of army you want to build. More on that later. Next are the Priority Supplies and Vital Assets Battlefield expansions. Both of these give you access to new objectives, deployments, and conditions for your 800-point standard games, as well as some really great minis that help bring your games to life. So to be clear, both of these expansions are totally unnecessary just to break into the game and begin playing, and they're really only necessary competitively if you want to build an army that's more objective focused and doesn't rely on just shooting your opponent's army off the board. The last neutral expansions I mentioned are the Downed AT-ST, the Imperial Bunker, and the yet to be released at the time of filming Crashed X-Wing expansion. These expansions are just pieces of terrain that have scenarios that go along with them if you're into that sort of thing. Now, there's also a Crashed Escape Pod scenario expansion that contains R2-D2 and C-3PO in it, which can be played both for the Rebels and for the Droids. It's the only way to get R2 and C-3PO other than buying the Rebel Battle Force. Legion has so many expansions at this point that it's frankly impossible to give unit-by-unit advice of what to buy, and anyone who says otherwise is frankly a liar. How to build your expansion at this point depends so heavily on what faction you own and what type of army you enjoy playing and what other units you already have. And that's why Team Relentless made the Legion Synergy tool. This tool allows you to, with the click of a button, essentially ask, if I really want to play X unit, what else goes well with it? If I were just getting started in Legion, this tool would be my best friend as I worked on building a collection of synergistic units that I'm personally interested in playing. Now, I know not everyone is going to be as jazzed as I am to go through Tabletop Admiral and the Legion Synergy tool and figure out exactly what expansions they need to buy to build certain armies, and so I went ahead and did that for you. Things you need to know about this buying sheet. First of all, every army was made with budget in mind. That means some lists are missing certain upgrades that would typically be included in that type of army and it would make them better, but you would have had to buy more expansions to have access to those units or to those upgrades. Now, most people in Legion are super chill about using proxies, but if you show up to a high-level tournament, you will be expected to have the actual cards for every unit in your army. So now you know that. Next thing to know is that I divided the cost of every core set by 2, because I'm assuming you can either go splitsies with a buddy or that you're collecting 2 factions. Another thing about the prices, I use the official online store price points to calculate the costs. And this is likely also the cost that you would pay if you bought from your friendly local gaming store, but online you're going to be able to find them for cheaper if that's what you want to do. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is tell you exactly what I would buy and why if I wanted to start collecting each faction right now. I'm not going to go over each buy-in army list because you're an incredible human being capable of doing such things yourself.
Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
Rebel armies have great theme, incredible heroes, cool vehicles, and tons of viable competitive options right now. The faction tends to be a little bit squishier and rely on clever command cards and synergies between units in order to win. If you're wanting to start playing Rebels, congratulations, you picked the faction with the absolute most incredible battle force in the entire game with the best bang for your buck you could possibly imagine. Echo-based Defenders actually has 14 units inside of it. I know you don't play the game yet, but that's a lot of units. It's more units than you'll ever field in an army. If I was buying into Rebels right now, it would be a total no-brainer to buy a copy of Echo-based Defenders and an Essentials kit, and then expand upon my army with whatever seemed the most interesting thing to play. Empire is arguably the strongest faction in the game right now, although the S-tier armies that tend to be winning the major tournaments are also a lot more on the pricier side. In general, Empire armies are more durable and rely on overwhelming firepower to win games. Blizzard Force, the Imperial Battle Force, is by far the strongest battle force in the game right now, but it's the worst battle force box when it comes to getting bang for your buck. There's only 7 units inside, which basically means you can't get away with just buying 1. If I was buying into Empire right now, I would try to find someone to go splitsies on with 1 or 2 core sets, and then I would pick up a copy of Blizzard Force. After that, I would try to prioritize getting 1 or 2 copies of the Imperial Specialist expansion pack. The Galactic Army of the Republic is a faction that typically relies heavily on the synergy between its clone trooper core units and playmaking Jedi like Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda. When played correctly, clone armies can be incredibly difficult to push damage onto, making them by far the most durable armies in the game. If I were buying into clones right now, I would try to find a droid player to split 2 core sets with. After that, I would either pick up the 5.0 First Battle Force if I wanted to add a lot more clones to my collection, or I would pick up Yoda and some Wookiees if I wanted to make a Kashyyyk-themed list. Now, I do need to mention something here that's a little bit unintuitive. There are mercenary units in Legion that can be taken by multiple factions, and it just so happens that the Pike Syndicate foot soldiers and capos go really nicely with the Galactic Army of the Republic right now. If that sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out the Anakin, Padme, and the Pikes buy-in army listed on the buy-in army sheet. The Separatist Alliance is an incredibly well-themed faction that relies on hordes of battle droids backed by powerful villains, or the infamous AAT that we first saw in The Phantom Menace. The Separatist Invasion Battle Force is really fun to play, and it lets you take up to 8 units of B1s. Typically you can only take 6 in a regular army. It's also probably the best way to field AATs. If that sort of thing sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out the Battle of Naboo buy-in army on the buy-in army sheet. If I were buying into droids right now, I'd find a clone player to split 2 core sets with, and then if my budget allowed it, I'd pick up a Separatist invasion force. Buying these will give you the ability to run a huge variety of different lists. I'd also prioritize getting 1 or 2 copies of the Separatist Specialist expansion in the near future too. The Shadow Collective is a unique mercenary battle force, many of whose units can be played across multiple factions. They're led by Robolegs Maul and backed by the Pike Syndicate, Black Sun Enforcers, Mandalorian Super Commandos, and others. If Shadow Collective is what you're most interested in playing, congratulations, you have the absolute easiest entrance into the game. Buy 2 Shadow Collective starter kits and an Essentials kit, and you're good to go. How you choose to expand your personal collection after this is entirely up to your personal preference. However, I did throw some suggestions into the buy-in army sheet. So now you have a better idea of how to buy into Star Wars Legion. I hope. Please check out the buy-in guide, and I hope that you'll also use the Legion Synergy tool. It's super useful for newer players especially. It's a great way to figure out what to buy next, as well as build armies with strong synergy. Finally, I want to invite you to ask questions of the existing player base. The Legion community is full of veteran players who are eager to grow the game and would love to answer your questions. Joining either the Legion Discord or the Facebook group are great ways to dip your toes into the community. If you like the video, please prove it and subscribe if you're into that sort of thing. I'm Mbweha, you can call me Ben of Team Relentless, and this has been the Star Wars Legion Buying Guide Winter 2022-2023. Done filming for a while, yeah, done filming for a while, yeah. So much fun filming, tired of filming, I don't want to do it anymore. Oh, it's still recording.